For enthusiasts like myself who got into watches sometime in the last decade, there is one watch that looms large in our collective imaginations as one possible answer to the question, is there such a thing as a perfect watch on its own terms? And that watch remains the Black Bay 58 by Tudor. It celebrates its 5th anniversary this year, and in this video, we'll talk about why the Black Bay 58 has never looked like a better value proposition in the mid-tier luxury diver category. All the numbers in this video come from WatchCharts.com. Are you looking to browse listings from the biggest private sales marketplaces across the web? See insights on whether you're getting a good deal or not? Manage your collection and track its value over time? You can do all this and more on WatchCharts.com, the world's most powerful watch market research platform. Dive into the data yourself at WatchCharts.com. If you want to hear my personal take on the Black Bay 58, what it has meant to me as a long-term owner of two of them, and what I think of the watch today, I'll talk about that at the end of the video. Here, I'd like to begin with a focus on the evolution of the market price for both the black and blue Black Bay 58s, the first two in steel to arrive on the market. In 2018, the black arrived for $3,575, and then the blue followed in 2020 with a retail price of $3,700. And then today, both retail for $3,950. The black, definitely the more vintage looking of the two, has been on the secondary market for over 5 years at this point. And after trending around its retail price for most of the first 3 years, when, remember, starting out retail price was $35.75, and it rose a little bit over the next 2 or 3 years, but not up to $39.50 until today. So retail prices were lower, and that's roughly where the market price for this watch was trending. After that, it followed the rest of the market down essentially over 2022, stabilized for maybe half a year, starting very late in 2022, and has lately been declining further now to an all-time low market price of $2,800. The Black Bay 58 Blue is for sure the more modern looking one, even though there is a blue Tudor Submariner heritage present here. This watch, the execution just makes it look very modern, especially when compared to the black, which has, the gilt hands and the dial and bezel markings. The blue currently also trades at an all-time low market price of $2,700, the lowest of any of the Black Bay 58 references, and the lowest market price of any watch we'll look at in the course of this video. Because of that, it serves as a useful baseline for answering the question, what is the best value proposition at the lowest possible price you could get in the category that this watch competes in, the mid-tier luxury diver category? That excludes, at the high end, options like Le Chute Original or Jaeger LeCoultre, and at the low end excludes brands like Seiko and Tag Heuer. We're left with Omega, IWC, and a few others, plus of course alternatives from Tudor itself. But before we look at those potential competitors, I want to underscore that the market prices for these watches really are sitting comfortably at a sub $3,000 price point for both steel versions. Since we'll be using the blue for comparison for the rest of this video, let's just quickly look at where transactions on the forums are taking place. Here's a listing from just a couple of days ago, as of the time of recording this, for $2,895 from a reputable seller on Rolex forums who happens to be a dealer. But still, this one is on a bracelet, full set with box and papers, with half the warranty left, in very decent condition. Its list price is almost 10% higher than our market price, but still within our market price range that stops under $3,000 as well. You could go negotiate to buy this watch today. But that's nowhere near the bottom. For $2,450, for example, here's one that's sold, again, on a bracelet with a full set with box and papers with 3 years on the warranty, on Reddit from someone who has done several successful transactions and has rep as well. I'm sticking to full set bracelet comparisons in an attempt to keep it apples to apples as much as possible, but even brand new Black Bay 58s, so the ones that are being flipped presumably because they have mid-2023 warranty cards, they're listed right now below the retail price for this watch. If you don't want the bracelet, there are confirmed sold listings for under $2,000. That's how much money you might consider spending on a Christopher Ward or a Longines diver. And it's now those buyers as well who can access this Tudor watch at the best prices the market has ever seen. We don't know if this is the bottom, but it's for sure never been better. And so let's look at really why, when we talk about this being the best time ever to buy the Black Bay 58, why that is not just true in terms of its own price evolution, but even when you compare it to, a bunch of different watches in that mid-tier luxury diver category. And so the first one we'll look at is the Omega Seamaster Diver 300 meters. This one retails for $5,900 on the secondary market, trades for $4,200, and so that's about $1,500 more than the Black Bay 58. But then the Omega is also 42 millimeters to the Black Bay 58's 39, which means it's larger, and so fewer people can probably pull off the size. The bracelet does not taper, which for a lot of owners is a point of complaint. The movement makes the case of the watch itself pretty thick. It's META certified coaxial escapement movement, but again, META by itself is a competitive advantage that Omega has today, but how much longer? Tudor has already started introducing META certification across more and more of its catalog, and it's only a matter of time, it seems, before the Black Bay 58s will sort of get included in that certification program. But this watch, the Omega, does have a ceramic dial, and it's got the name Omega on the dial. Now, whether that is worth an additional $1,500 results in an objectively better watch, that's a point that's easy to debate. But that's kind of the point. These watches are all in the conversation together, and certainly from a price standpoint, the Tudor Black Bay 58 would be the clear winner, and even from a wearability standpoint would be more attractive to a wider range of potential customers. The IWC Aquatimer reference 328801 retails for $6,100, which is even more than the Omega, even though this version comes on a strap and not even a bracelet. It trades on the market for around $5,100, which is $2,400 more than the Black Bay 58 Blue. It's larger, it's got a date window, the movement is not COSC certified, the bezel is not on the outside, so the bezel is on the inside, which means you have to use one of the crowns to manipulate it. And honestly, in my opinion, you'd get this if you like the design or the brand or the history of the watch. Otherwise, it's hard to argue that all of these compromises that have to be made on the product side or the product quality side, perhaps, or the completeness of the package side, should cost an additional $2,400. The Breitling Superocean A17377 retails for $5,150 and trades on the secondary market for $3,800, which is about $1,100 over the Black Bay 58 Blue. This one has a very funky design. It's also like the IWC, not COSC certified. And the design is a very strong design statement. It's a very distinctive look. And so if that's the kind of look you're going for and that you are interested in wearing, then I think it makes sense to consider this as an option. But otherwise, in terms of versatility of the design, perhaps, and even the size for a greater range of wrist sizes, the Black Bay 58 Blue, again, would seem to be the better option. And then lastly, let's look at a Grand Seiko diver, the SBGA 463. This one comes with a spring drive movement and a ceramic bezel and a date window and a over 44 millimeter case size. Is the spring drive worth the extra $2,600? It's definitely worth stopping and thinking about it, I think, especially because of just how different spring drive is from all of the other mechanical watches on this list, and whether, that experience is something that's worth it to you, is something that has to then become part of the thought process, I would imagine, for this watch. But then it's also got the power reserve indicator on the dial, so that's another consideration. And then I always remember that the bracelets on these watches are as far back relative to the competition as Grand Seiko dials are usually ahead of the competition. So the overall package is certainly not something that's a slam dunk. And you would really have to think about whether you're really getting a watch, especially since that this is Grand Seiko and so it's not Swiss. And some people would care about it being Swiss made and not Japanese, whether the additional $2,600 would actually be worth it. But the thing is, even if you look at other options from Tudor itself, it kind of is hard to argue that those are better dive watches per se than the Black Bay 58. But I wanted to end on just some quick personal takes on why I think the Black Bay 58 matters, why I think it is on its own terms such a perfect watch. It's been so incredibly important for Tudor. It has been so incredibly important by proxy for Rolex, and it has certainly been incredibly important for customers, in which I count myself. It's a respected luxury brand with real heritage that goes back as far as Rolex. It's, from a product design standpoint, the perfect size in terms of capturing that vintage feel and presenting a comfortable wearing experience. There's still hardly anything that competes with it on its own terms in that product design sense. At the 39 millimeter size, for example, there's nothing from one of these options that we looked at in some detail in the video. This watch came out in March 2018. And I think just to provide some additional context on what was going on in the world of watches back then, there were two sort of big trends that were emerging. One was around the dive watch or the sports watch as the watch to have, and then the other was certainly a very strong spotlight on vintage watches. And so this watch was introduced in March 2018, which was just 6 months after the Paul Newman Daytona sold at auction for over $17 million. Like, this was the height of vintage mania, or sort of vintage obsession in the world of watches as we have seen in the last decade. And so in terms of like being able to capture lightning in a bottle for all of those trends, the Black Bay 58 could not have timed its arrival on the market more perfectly. It was announced 3 months after I bought my first luxury watch. The Black Bay 58 Black was the second luxury watch I ever bought. And it really sort of sent me down the rabbit hole that leads me to talking to you here today. But the point is that these are watches that are incredibly meaningful to a very large number of enthusiasts in the market today. Every enthusiast has owned one or more of these watches at this point. And if for any reason, I guess you're one of the people who has been interested in it but has never managed to pull the trigger, now is literally the best time from a price point standpoint there has ever been to consider this watch. And especially when you compare it to the competition both within Tudor's own stable and then what else you might consider buying in that same category. Hopefully this video has helped establish that there really is nothing else like it. But is there a dive watch at these prices that you would pick over the Black Bay 58? Let us know in the comments below which ones and what your reasoning would be. Thanks for watching.